Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Learning with Jelly. Today, we're on video 5 of our Git and GitHub series. The topic is going to be how you can actually create a remote GitHub repository first in GitHub and also make changes right inside GitHub. In our previous video, we created a local repository first, then linked that local repository to GitHub, and then we ended up pushing changes from our local repo. This time around, we're going to create a repository in GitHub first and then learn how to make changes to files right inside GitHub. So let's go ahead and get started. That is our agenda for today. And the first thing is we're going to go back through the steps that we learned in a previous video about how we can actually create a GitHub repo. So let's go ahead and navigate to GitHub. I'm going to actually duplicate this. I'm going to hit the plus sign next to my face, your avatar, your picture, and I'm going to do new repository. Make sure that I'm on my account, and I'm going to say GitHub_first. So I know that this is a repository that I made using GitHub first, not creating a local instance on my computer. I'm going to make it public. And since I don't have a local repo, I'm just going to do add a README. Okay. So from here, I'm going to create the repository. And so now when I see that I create a repository, my repository is GitHub first, and my README also has the name of the repository as the heading. So now I'm going to be able to click this pencil right here and edit this README. So in this case, I'm going to click the pencil and I'm going to say my first repo, creating it on GitHub first. Then I'm going to create some subheadings. I'm going to say introduction from my project, or just call it intro. And then I'm going to create some data understanding, for instance. I can hit preview to see exactly how it's going to look. And I'm like, okay, that's exactly what I want it to look. I'm going to add a commit. Remember, it must be descriptive. So I'm going to say adding a title and 2 subheadings to README. And then I can commit directly onto that main branch since this is an individual project. And there you have it. I see that it updates here. Okay. In this case, I can go ahead and click GitHub first again. And if I wanted to add a file, I can hit the drop down arrow and create a new file if I want to. So say, for instance, one of the popular files that people have in data science or coding is a requirements.txt file. And this is going to list out some packages and some versions that I want. I don't even know if NumPy has a version of 1.14. But then I can go back and say, create a requirements.txt file of packages. And then I can go ahead and commit that. And now I see that I have my requirements.txt. I can also add branches on here where I'm able to create a new branch, and we're going to talk about that momentarily. If I go to settings, I also can add collaborators so that I can have people collaborate and so forth and so forth. But that is exactly how you just create a repo in GitHub first. So let's go back to our slides. Since we followed that, we were able to edit our README by clicking that pencil icon. And now what we can do, since we have created our remote repo first, we now can clone down the repo to our local computer. So let's actually do that using our git clone. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up my terminal. And inside my terminal in previous videos, we were working inside a repo of repo_projects. I don't want to put another repo inside of another repo. It just gets messy. So I want to leave this repo by itself. Okay, this is a whole new project. I'm just going to give it a whole new folder. So I'm going to cd ... and I'm going to change out of this repository so that I'm in my documents folder. And in this case, I'm going to make a new directory, and I'm going to call that first underscore GitHub to know that this is just my first repo where I made the repo on GitHub first. Then I'm going to cd into that. Remember, I only have to type in the first few letters and tab over, and it will autocomplete. I see that I have a slash at the end, so this means that I'm in a folder. And I'm going to hit enter, and now I see that I'm in that folder. What command do I do to initialize a GitHub repo? Well, I'm not going to initialize. I'm going to back up some. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my GitHub first. I'm going to hit the code, and I'm going to copy this code. And then I'm going to do a git clone, and I'm going to paste that URL. And what it's doing is cloning down that repo inside my first GitHub folder. So now when I hit LS, I see that I list out what's inside this folder, and it's my GitHub first repo. So now I'm going to navigate into this repo, and then I'm going to do a git status. And it says that I'm on branch main, and it's up to, and it's clean. So in this case, this git status lets me know that this GitHub first is an existing repo. Git clone is going to allow me to clone down this repo into this actual folder. Okay. And so now I have my repo, right? So that is exactly how I do that. And you can git clone on any public repo on GitHub. You can clone down anything that you possibly want. I suggest cloning down repositories into a folder, right? So that way you can navigate into each repository as you see fit. Okay. So let's go ahead and go back to our slides. Make sure that we covered everything. So we want to clone it down. So in this case, you navigate into a folder, you do a git clone. Once you do a git clone, you want to change your directory to be that folder again, do a git status, and now you know that you have cloned it down to your local computer. Okay. Same thing, if I wanted to make new files inside of that repo, I'm going to use that touch command. Okay. So let's go ahead. I'm going to bring back up before we end today, because that is important to get us some more practice. Now, since I'm inside this repo, I'm going to do a touch, and I'm going to do a code. I'm going to actually say first code .ipymb, and that's just for Python notebook. Okay. So I'm going to create a code file. Now I'm going to run a git status. And it's going to say, I have this untracked file here that's called firstcode.ipymb. Do you want to add it? Remember, that's exactly what we do. So let me give myself some real estate here and then rerun that git status so I can see it. So now I'm going to do git add first code. I'm just going to type in the first two letters and hit tab. I'm going to do git commit. And I'm going to say first code notebook. And then I'm going to do a git push. So now I want to go back to that repo. I'm going to hit refresh. And now I see that I have my first code.ipymb. Okay. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So thank you all for tuning in with Learning with Jelly. We learned how to create the remote repo on GitHub first and then clone it down into a folder in which we then navigated inside the repo in order to create a file and still push up changes. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.